Pasensya na po kayo. This is 2017. Ng 1986, kaya kong takbuhin yan. Ngayon, medyo hirap na. Well, thank you, Senator Kiko, for inviting me. I didn't know I had to speak, but from what I gathered, I can say something for 3 minutes or 5 minutes. So I prepared a small paper for 3 minutes. But because it is this revolution that we have gone through, maybe 5 hours should not be enough for me. So anyway, thank you, Risa, for the nice introduction. You know, before I begin, even how small is the time, may I tell you this, in extension to Risa's introduction. You know, after the ELSA revolution, there were a few people who were very popular. Gringo, si Red Kapunan, si Vic Batak, si Gerald Ramos, si Secretary Enrile. Now, I don't know for whatever reason, ang iniimbita ng mga small group, may mga magaganda, lahat naman, hindi kagaya ko pangit. Sa mga madre, etc. Ang iniimbita lang, wala Secretary Enrile, yung 4 plus me. So we went. You know, Risa, what happened? All of them were mobbed by the crowd, except me. So, I do not blame them because Risa is correct. I am the ugliest. So anyway, I would like really to speak extemporaneously kung pwede sana. Pero I don't think we have the time because I'll be entertaining you on things that, well, it's funny maybe, but meaningful. In any event, this is an outline and also introducing who I am because nobody bothers with me except Kiko. So I will read this with a 3-line introduction about myself. With your permission, I will begin from the beginning. I was trained as a professional soldier at the Philippine Military Academy, or PMA, beginning in 1952. If you know your arithmetic, that is 75 years ago. I left the portals of the PMA with the knowledge that as a professional soldier in a democratic polity, and I'm quoting, mine was not the reason why, but only to do and die, unquote. But I'm still alive. My original sin, this is very important, my original sin, or my second original sin, to be accurate, as a follower of Christ, we have the original sin. So this is my second original sin, was that I violated this dictum soon after I was deployed in the Sierra Madre Mountains in the fight against the Hooks in 1956. In other words, I violated the mine is not the reason why. I resigned immediately after my graduation. I questioned why our political leaders were ordering us to hunt and kill the very people who paid for our education. I accepted the rationale that the Hooks have risen to bring down the government by force, and it had no choice, meaning the government, but to exercise its constitutional and legal duty to call on the armed forces and the police to suppress their rebellion. But I had another question, and this is very important and maybe relevant to why we are here today. Why were they rebelling against the government? That was my question 61 years ago or so. It's still my question today. And this is, to me, why the 86 revolution took place. I have dedicated, since 1956, when I first asked this basic question, I have dedicated myself to find an answer or solution to this compelling issue. But up to this day, after 71 years later, I am still groping for a satisfactory answer. That is why, now please take these statements with some caution, because you may not like it. But you will like it when I go to the end. That is why I was relieved to know that of all the presidents after former President Ramos, only President Duterte is trying to continue the basic reforms initiated by the Ramos government for the purpose, now this may be a new phrase for the UP, because I had advocating this when I was in PICAS, but for 10 years all I had is a demonstration in the office because they do not believe. Now, I am saying this now, that the purpose was to establish a national enabling environment. I say this here, but let me explain this, then later I may repeat. You see, our problem, at least this has been my experience, we have been addressing frontally poverty, inequality, corruption, crime, drugs, and all other difficulties associated with underdevelopment. And since 1946, when we recovered our independence up to today, we are still addressing the same problems. And they have even deteriorated. The question is why? Bakit po nangyari? That's why since 1969, when I was asked by former President Marcos to organize a think tank here in the university, because this is the source of the nation's wisdom, I already tried to explain that nothing can happen to this country if we don't establish an enabling environment that will enable the Filipinos, give them the capability, enable them to be able to acquire that shaping impulse, which will allow them to ask the question, who are we? What do we want to be? What can we be? Etc., etc. Now, you cannot ask that question if you do not have the capacity, the base, to be able to think about those basic issues if you are faced with the problem of where will you eat for the next day. That's the problem. So, I'm sorry, I went a little advanced. Anyway, I was told I have 15 minutes, so it's a little more. I'll repeat that here, but all right. Let me continue now. As I said, my thesis is Duterte is the only president who tried to continue the basic reforms of President Ramos. It does not mean that Estrada, Gloria, sino pa? Si Pinoy, at si Duterte, well, yung tatlo lang, that they did not do anything. No, they did something. They were doing something, touching on this, but not the focus. The focus necessary. Why? Ito po is why are we claiming that this is we have to create an enabling environment, and ano ba ito? And why should we establish it? Ito po ang thesis noon ni President Ramos. The thesis of the Ramos government was that only within an enabling environment can our people develop, sinabi ko na yata ito, the capability to solve the nation's perennial problems of inequality, poverty, corruption, injustice, criminality, etc. Now, what are these things? There are po three elements that if we address, we will have the capacity to be able to address our perennial problems like poverty, injustice, etc. But if we do not address this, wala pong mangyayari sa atin. What has happened since 1946 will continue forever. So, ano po ito? Okay, number one. We are the only country with the longest insurgency in the world. Tayo lang. And imagine, the communists have already imploded in the Soviet Union, and the communists in China has become capitalist. We are still fighting. Whom? And we are fighting ourselves. That is my original question. Why? So ito po ang aking talagang mabigat na tanong, because ito ay hindi hinaharap ng ating mga liderato. Sir, excuse me, Kiko. Ako po ay 85 years old. Ngayon lang ako nagsalita dito sa university ng ganito. So, because of that, I am claiming my bonus as an old man and make my hinagpis. So, all right. Ito po ang, just to be short, because I might consume more than my time. So, I'll read the first one. The program to end the nation's internal war by appointing known personalities from the left to government cabinet positions and pursuing peace negotiation with the leaders of the largest communist insurgency in the world, with the longest in the world. Similarly, President Duterte is personally talking with the separatist movements, the MNLF, MILF, using his previous investments of goodwill with them. Hindi ko na po ito elaborate. I'm just trying to communicate why I am claiming that Duterte is pursuing the reforms of Ramos. Later, maybe you would like to ask, ano ba yung reform ni Ramos? I'll recite them to you, but just give me time. Okay, number 2, actions to reform the nation's broken politics, where national policies are formulated by special interest groups and implemented to serve their interests rather than the common good. Ito po ang problemang nire-remind sa atin ng World Bank. Every year, in the report on the Philippines, sinasabi, the basic problem of the Philippines is that a small group of people formulate policies and implement it for themselves. And this happens every after election. Why? Because it is those who fund the election who are in this position to make policies. Abad yung sinuportahan na talo, ganon din. Kasi anong sasabihin nila? Mr. President, ang nasuportahan namin mali. Talo kami. Pero I have enough here, funds, to pay your debts. So it's the same. So all of them, so you see, our country is like this because the politicians, pardon me, they say politician, I'm saying generic in general. It's not the one in front here, I am nervous, They are my very close friends, They are my very close friends. So, pasensya na po kayo, ako ay matanda na. So, I am complaining. Okay. Iyan po ang problema. All right, we have tried to hallucinate on the solution to this. So many, I'll not recite to you. But President Duterte has a proposal. He said we change to federal, to change the whole structure, etc. I don't know if it is good, but at least he's trying to solve the problem. Now, there are proposals will make it parliamentary. Maybe, okay. But I'm not sure it's good, because up to now, Italy, after the Second World War, is still making the parliamentary system work. And Renzi just resigned, because the world today is changing. the world order established up to 1945 is completely changing. You will see it indicative in terms of Brexit, in terms of Trump, in terms of Marine Le Pen, in terms of the alternative parties in Germany, the Dutch, etc. So this whole thing may change, you know. But anyway, we'll not talk about that. Okay, number 3. Okay na ba yung number 2? Number 3. Well, there are indications I've seen, although I hope I'm correct. The Duterte government will begin, this is what I observe, hopefully, that he will begin to level the playing field, both in the land and non-land sectors. Now, this is very, very important. I mean, it's key to building this nation. Because if we do not alter the connection between politics and business, which is oriented towards benefiting their connections, then we will never go anywhere. So in fact, maybe I'll tell that later if you have some questions. Wala na tayong time. So anyway, ang tingin ko kay President Duterte that he was attempting to do this. I am not sure, but I hope he does. Now, it's really very simple. Just introduce competition. Well, this is the School of Economics. Please correct me. Just introduce competition in business. And I assure you, the Filipino people are creative, geniuses, etc. They know how to compete. And in the competition, monopoly, etc., will have difficulty working as it used to. That's my observation. In PLDT, for instance, just dismantling PLDT, what happened? We leveled the playing field in the communication sector. Now, what it is today, it is the driver of the Philippine economy. Last year, it has employed 1.2 million people, according to statistics, and earned money for the Philippines, 25 billion just the BPO dollars, next to the OFW. Can you imagine if we replicate this reform in other monopolies in the Philippines? Why is it that 31 years, hindi pala 31 years si Ramos, 1992 lang, no? 18 years ago or 19 years ago, after Ramos became president, if we replicated even just 1, 2, 3 monopolies in this country, then we will be maybe approaching South Korea, which was the least after the Korean War in 1952 or something. So ito po ang ito ang problema. So all right, now maybe you will like this. If the above elements are put in place, we will be able to effectively enforce our Constitution and our laws, and our national development plans can succeed. Alam niyo po, since 1946 up to now, not many Filipinos believe the Constitution or follow the laws. Okay? Evidence. You have an insurgency. We have a separatism. We have people power 1986 and another people power and another gulo today. Anong ibig sabihin ito? Meaning our people, or some of them, or a number of them, do not care about the Constitution and their laws. They want to have their own Constitution. We have to address that problem. Okay. Itong National Development Plus, alam niyo po ako, hindi ekonomista. Yung aking trabaho sa gobyerno, security guard, national security advisor. Pero ito po, pinagtitingnan ko ito noon. Ang NEDA, 5-year development plan, every 5 years, every year, in fact, it is renewed for the budget. I tell you, nandoon yung addressing poverty, addressing inequality, kung pwede, may competition din doon, education, nutrition, etc. Very good. But how much has been the success insofar as these plans are concerned. Now, please correct me because you know the data. According to what I read, from 1946 to date, the average growth of the Philippines is 2.2. Ang average sa Asia Pacific or Southeast Asia, I think is 5 something, 5.5. Tama ba po yan? Something like that, 3 times 2.2 more or less. Iyan ang growth. Bakit ganito? Why is it not succeeding? Paulit-ulit tayo a year, wala rin. Now, to me, these are the fundamental questions that we have to ask if we have to really implement the spirit of EDSA. Because the spirit there is to recover our freedom, use this freedom to build the nation. Anong ibig sabihin? Ang ibig sabihin is the responsibility corresponding to the exercise of freedom must be defined not by individual interest but by the common good. Ginagawa ba yan? Yan ibig sabihin ng to be. Ibig sabihin ng EDSA. All right. I'll continue. But there are indications that these basic enabling reforms may be derailed in their implementation in the midst of national and international clamor against extrajudicial killings in the war against drugs. Now, ito po ang aking really problem na I hope the government does not do this so that they can address the 3 basic things. Now, if they continue to do that, 2 things can only happen. Either President Duterte becomes the greatest president of this country, or he's the worst. If he does these 3 things, he'll be great. If he fails, he will be remembered. History will write about extrajudicial killings. Tama po ba? I hope they're listening, my friends there. Okay. Nabasa ko na ba ito? Okay. In any event, regardless of whatever other purposes the government may have in the brutal war against drugs, extrajudicial killings have limits, especially when applied with impunity. Ang ibig sabihin ko po, you cannot kill everyone. Yan po ibig sabihin. When there was a war in Iraq, some leaders said, you cannot kill every Iraqi or every Arab. So why use that kind of force? But anyway, that is another story. Now, extrajudicial killings create conditions where vengeance defines justice. Translation, ito po ang sinasabi ng mga Moro brothers natin na rido, vendetta, blood feud forever. In fact, 9/11 could be argued as a result of centuries of oppression. And those who perpetrated it, who are they? They are the Saudi Arabs, you know, the one that is totally controlled. But again, that is another story. Okay. The same conditions, I mean yung extrajudicial killings, create a moral command, a compelling moral imperative. This is according to the late Jaime Cardinal Sin. I am qualifying this for Reza because ito si Almonte matanda na, marami pag sinasabing hindi maintindihan ng mamamayan. Hindi pa ako may sabi niya, si Cardinal Sin. Where disobedience, sabi ni Cardinal Sin, disobedience binds everybody, whether citizens, soldiers, police, together, unconditionally, irrevocably, universally, absolutely. Translation, ito po ang tinatawag na people power. It may be recalled that the 1986 People Power Revolution was not merely a people's collective exertion against a tyrannical regime. More importantly, It was a people's war to recover their dignity and freedom, ensuring that as life comes from God, only God can take it away. Now, I'm not trying to impress you, I'm a theologian. But let me tell you that the world has recognized the Edge of People Power Revolution as a model simply because it succeeded in bringing down a regime without bloodshed. Actually, it's not 100%. One died, one was shot, one soldier. But he has no blood, maybe. call it bloodless. You know. So, oh, sorry, my soldier. But, all right, baka nakalimutan ko na. Okay. Ang gusto ko po sabihin, i-communicate ganito, na iyong peaceful revolution, hindi yun nangyari by accident. That was deliberate. It was but this is among us only. It was our commitment to everyone that since we are fighting fellow Filipinos, we should ensure that we should not hurt anyone if we can. If we come out with this, everybody is not hurt, we will grade ourselves 100%. Why? Now again, please don't misunderstand. We believe among ourselves that, as I said, life is comes from God. Our dignity is mere reflection of His dignity. If you assault the person, you assault His dignity, you assault God. Kaya po, during that revolution and the counter-coups of our friends, sila Grigo, sila Johnny, after that, against Cory, you know, some people, sabi na, kayo, mga useless kayo. Yellow Army ito nagsasabi sa akin. Ay, ang kanyang gera, acoustic warfare by sound only. Because we do not hurt the other side. So I cannot explain to them that in internal war like what we have at that time, the first principle of war, which is not written, is not to hurt your countrymen. Hindi po yan nila maintindihan. Ngayon, kung na lang sinasabi sa inyo na yung accusation na kami mga acoustic experts, hindi po correct. My purpose. And that was the purpose. Kaya po yung walang dugo. Okay? After the EDSA Revolution, I resigned completely. Ito personal na. Sabi ni FVR, bakit ka mga officer rito? Bakit ako sa iwanan mo kung ano ka ba? So, all right. Sabi ko, kung gusto mo ako sa civil military, that is the least position in the armed forces. Nobody likes that. Yeah, it's the least. It has no budget, it has no civil military operation. Bakit yan gusto mo? Sir, sabi ko, alam mo yun, natutunan ko sa Vietcong, ituro ko dito. Natutunan ko dito, ituro ko. Itong sinasabi ko sa inyo, that life is precious. We must not play with it. And the whole meaning of ourselves is really to enhance, to enlarge, to strengthen the dignity of the human person. So, anong ginawa ko po? Tinuro ko ang Biblia, yung Bible and Quran sa armed forces. You will be surprised. Some Muslims were asking me they want to join the Bible study. I let them sign a waiver because they might run amok, you know. So, but just to show you the interest, the sincerity. Well, I think this was, not I think. Even when I was there was this value formation, they call it. It's now a part of the curriculum and the PMA. It is being taught in the armed forces, in the training schools, and in the police. Now, the effect, I will not be able to say na, we succeeded because there are many, yung Korean, kapapatay lang, how could I say we succeeded sa police? So, anyway, that's a problem, but in terms of policy, in terms of exertion of a program, we have done that. Mhm. Okay, I think I have two last lines. If the 1986 People Power Revolution is being argued as the nation's contribution toward culture and civilization, it is primarily because it brought down an entrenched predatory and cruel regime without assaulting the life and dignity of anyone, friend or foe alike. It became a world model for political change without bloodshed. So I think I have touched on that earlier. So if you ask me, how relevant is the 86 revolution to what is happening today? I think it's very relevant in many ways, but for me, just one point. Let us ensure that no life, let us, I'll rephrase it, Raisa. I'm not very good in English. There is no life. There is no ideology, political, economic, or others, that are so weighty, so high, that it deserves taking away human life. To me, human life and its dignity is the beginning and end of who we are as a people. So, salamat po.